It's not very often that new parks open, and when they do, it's usually a grand event, almost ceremonial. This can be a great experience with enthusiasts and GP all coexisting, trying to ride all the new and the latest and greatest from manufacturers. Or it can be a catastrophic nightmare. Now, I wouldn't say the grand opening of Nickelodeon Universe was a disaster, but it was definitely leaning towards that direction. However, I didn't take my trip to Nickelodeon Universe open day, opening weekend, or even opening year. I was smart and waited until February. Then February came, and I realized I was not smart. 3 months later, this park was still a hot mess. So today I'm going to share with you my experience. Keep in mind this is pre-pandemic, so things from an operational and crowd standpoint will probably be different, although I doubt it will be much better. Also, Sandy's Blasting Bronco is now open, and Timmy's Half-Pipe Havoc is also now open, or at least it's running more consistently. When I went there, both of those were not open. That being said, I was still not impressed with this park. We walked into the park, and I have to say, this park feels very empty. It does feel like an amusement park in a box. It has a very corporate vibe. The walls are a plain dull white and the windows are a fun novelty at first, but then you realize all that is outside is a highway and cars driving by. It just kind of creates a dead park atmosphere that I can only imagine is even sadder with the limited capacity. There are small bits of pieces of theming scattered throughout the parks, which is cool when you encounter them, but they're not super complex or anything. It's not like it took a lot of brain power to think of Squidward sitting down on a bench. But it's an indoor amusement park, so those things are almost a given. The main thing people are here for are the rides. This park has a bit of an odd collection of coasters and a decent collection of flats. The overall theme of the park is hang time, at least in my opinion. Most of the flats focus on hang time and inverting riders, and the two premier coasters are inversion based. We first went to the Shredder, which is a big Gerstlauer spinner. It was fine. It's not the best coaster I've been on, but I don't think it's horrible. If you can't already tell, I don't really have a strong opinion on this ride. It's just kind of meh. My sister and I went on it together and they made us sit across from each other, which made it a very balanced ride, which is not something you want on a spinning coaster. Overall, it wasn't a great first impression of the park, but it was fine. It wasn't horrible, just a perfectly harmless, mediocre spinning coaster. Next we did Aang's Air Gliders. Now, this is I don't even know what it is. This is what I mean by hang time. This ride flips you upside down and you stall out for a couple seconds and then it finishes the circle. It's not anything fantastic, but I didn't hate it. It's kind of like that new Daredevil dive coming to Six Flags Fiesta Texas. There are definitely better hang time flats in the park, and I'll get to that in a minute, but this ride didn't insult me or anything. Perfectly inoffensive, just like the Shredder, and that's kind of the whole vibe of the park, except for Shellraiser. Speaking of Shellraiser, we did Shellraiser next. Now, I really want to do a full review of this because there's a lot to talk about here, but since I don't do ride reviews, I'm just going to kind of cram it into this video. This is widely considered the best Eurofighter in the US, and I mean, there's not a whole lot of competition. It's either this or what, Daredevil Dive? Mystery Mine? Yeah, no, this takes the cake. But that being said, I still think it's a fantastic ride. So first you go into this drop out of the station into a Hardline Roll. Again, a lot of hang time on this roll, some of the best in the park, in fact. Then you go into another small dip into a rolling launch. To me, this is the highlight of the ride. The launch is really forceful. Like, it's scary how forceful it is. Sometimes I even question whether this or King Deca's launch is more forceful. Yeah, this launch compares to a hydraulic launch on a strata coaster. It is that good. Now, I'm not gonna lie, all the following inversions kind of feel pretty much the same. They're very stretched out, and it doesn't really whip through them, which isn't really my cup of tea, but they're not horrible. They're just fun, harmless inversions. If there is an advantage to them, they yet again give hang time. So yeah, well, they're not the craziest thing in the world, they're still fun. I like the vertical lift and the 121.5 degree drop, but it's not insane. You get a good pop of ejector on the drop, but nothing crazy. There is a noticeable pothole though at the bottom of the drop, so if that bothers you, then you may take some points off for that, but it doesn't really bother me that much. The rest of the ride is pretty similar to the beginning. Something I do want to point out though is there's a really strong twisted airtime hill in the middle of the ride. I was not expecting it to be as strong as it was, but hey, I'm not complaining. So overall, it's a really fun and solid ride, and a great headlining attraction for the park. Good job, Nickelodeon Universe. So after Shellraiser, we went on to the ropes course. This is a really good ropes course, guys. Like, it's a must-do if you're there. I know it's closed right now, but when it's open, you shouldn't skip it. There's a lot of different puzzles and challenges, and you can even jump down from the top if you want. Also, at the top, it gives you a really good view of the park. You're really close to Sandy's Blasting Bronco, and you can see the whole mess of Shellraiser and the Shredder. I will say, though, the biggest downside to this is it's a capacity nightmare. This is kind of a theme with the park. A lot of their rides are just low capacity, or at least the coasters. However, this was by far the longest wait of the day. Some of the lines were pretty bad, like Shellraiser and Shredder, but this This was really bad. We probably waited for this stupid ropes course for at least an hour. They only can let on so many people, and the amount of time that you spend is up to you. So some people were really taking their time up there. But once you get up there, it's a really fun ropes course, and honestly, after Shellraiser and Sandy's, probably the headlining attraction. So next we did Shellraiser again. It was still really good. I will say the line was significantly longer this time. It was like a 45-minute wait, which isn't horrible, but I did see one train not on the track, so it definitely could have been better. We went on a somewhat crowded day. It wasn't swamped or anything, but it definitely wasn't empty either. But the ride was basically the same as before. Still a great launch and a fun rest of the layout, with one nice pop of air in the middle. After Shellraiser, we did the drop tower. I think it's called Sky Scream. I don't know. It's something like that. It was alright. There was some statues of Nickelodeon characters at the top dome thingy, which was cool, but it was just a pretty typical drop tower. Nothing super memorable. While we were in line though, we finally heard the roar of Slime Streak testing. So after the drop tower, we booked it over to Slime Streak, and I got on the first public train of the day. 3 hours before the park closed. I am really glad that we didn't wait for this, because this is basically a park monorail. There is absolutely no airtime, no forces, and pretty much just nothing at all. We got the back row by complete chance, and they stapled me really hard. Oh, and by the way, these are horrible trains, so any hope that there might have been some salvageable airtime was completely shattered. This ride is horrible. It's probably one of the worst coasters I've been on. It's such a slow and boring ride around the park, and while that might be some people's cup of tea, it's definitely not mine. They were also only running one train in it. I don't know if they can run anymore just because there's no mid-course, but the line got really long after we got off, and thank God we didn't wait long, because I don't think this ride is even worth 5 minutes. It's not overly rough or anything, I mean, because there's nothing remarkable about this coaster in any way. It's just boring. I really don't like this ride, and it sucks that this was the last coaster of the day, because it kind of left a bad taste in our mouth. But it wasn't the last ride of the day. The last ride of the day was the best flat ride of the day. It's Kang's Prime Pandemonium. This ride is bonkers, guys. It is really good. Like, this is the ultimate hang time flat ride. I know I said this park has a lot of hang time, but this is the cream of the crop of it. It has more hang time than hang time. I mean, I know that's not really a fair comparison because that's a coaster and this is a ride built for hang time, but whatever. This ride just flips you upside down and you just chill there for a minute. That's it. It just sits there and then you swing back down. I have never thought I was going to fall out of my seat more than on this ride. This might have more hang time than any coaster. I know I'll probably eat my words when I ride a ride like Copperhead Strike or something, but whatever. This ride is just so good. So yeah, that was it. We didn't get food or anything because it's just a small, sad, pathetic snack stand with a line that stretched around the world twice. Overall, this park is fine. It's not horrible, but there are way better parks in the area. You should definitely prioritize going to like Great Adventure, Hershey, Kennywood, and even Dorney before you go here. But this is kind of on the tier of like the Jersey Boardwalk parks or maybe Darien Lake. But all that being said, I still liked my experience at this park. It was mostly positive with a few things I just don't really like. So that's why I'm going to give Nickelodeon Universe at American Dream Mall a 6 out of 10.